Herzlich willkommen zum GVC Podcast Talk, einem Gespräch über Gott, die Welt und Inspirationen für einen lebendigen Glauben mitten im Alltag.
Herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Serie vom GVC Podcast Talk. In dieser Serie wird sich alles um das Thema Wasser drehen. Wir lernen uns hier dabei an die Follow Jesus 26 an, die wir Anfang März hier in Winterthur hatten. In 4 verschiedenen Episoden werden wir das Geheimnis ums Thema Wasser in der Bibel genauer mit 4 verschiedenen Gästen entdecken. Das heutige Interview wird auf Englisch durchgeführt. Wenn dir die englische Sprache Mühe macht, darfst du den Podcast sehr gerne auf YouTube mit deutschen Untertiteln schauen, sodass du möglichst viel von dieser Folge mitnehmen kannst. Und jetzt heißen wir den heutigen Gast herzlich willkommen. It's great to have you here. Please be welcomed.
Thank you so much. It's so good to be here.
Yes. Maybe you could briefly introduce yourself for start. What do you do for a living?
For sure. Yeah, so my name is Hannah Heather. I'm a pastor. So my husband and I lead a church in a tiny little town in Ireland. Our town is called Newtownards.
Newtownards.
Oh my goodness, Josh. That's actually really good. Surprising. No one, sometimes Irish people can't even say it. Newtownards. So we lead a church there, which is beautiful, beautiful church called House Church. Although it doesn't meet in houses, which is very confusing. We actually have a church building.
It's like the vision of the church.
But it's the vision of building a house of prayer for the nations.
Oh,
so
nice.
so we do that. We have 2 kids, so a mum to 2 kids, and then I'm also part of 24/7 Prayer International. So we have an app called Lectio 365, which helps people to pray the Bible every day. So I'm one of the writers and hosts of that.
Mm-hmm.
So my life is kind of a mix of pastoring, parenting, and writing.
And praying, I guess.
Of course.
In between.
In between. The
In
prayer
all of those.
fuels it all. Absolutely. Yeah.
So nice. So cool.
Yeah.
I guess when Swiss people think about Ireland, they think a lot of Guinness and whiskey. I mean, that's those beverages
Yep.
are made out from your
What we're known
country.
for.
Yes.
Do you know what? Guinness is actually a cool story because Arthur Guinness designed that drink. Do you know the story behind Guinness?
No.
He was a Christian.
Oh,
And
really?
he actually designed that drink with the intention of people not drinking too much because it's so hard to drink and so heavy
Oh, really?
that he actually designed it as kind of a, you can only have 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And also it's filled with all these healthy things like iron and loads of calories, so that for all these kind of hungry Irish people, they could drink a pint of Guinness and it would
It's good.
fuel them up. So it's actually, so for a long time in Ireland, if you were in hospital, they would prescribe you a Guinness to help you get better
That's
because of
interesting.
the high iron content.
We should start that in Switzerland, maybe.
So there you go. If you're feeling a little low on your iron, have a Guinness. But yes, land of Guinness and whiskey, that is us.
Nice. So during my research on Irish beverages, I stepped on the begriff or the word whiskey, and I don't know if you knew that, but whiskey actually claims to be the water of life.
Wow.
There is an old Gaelic expression which is called whiskey beta or something, and it meant water of life. And over the years, it transformed to whiskey, to the word we now have. And I even brought a bottle of Irish whiskey from Dublin, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, whiskey can be a good drink in the right amount, on the right time,
Sure.
of course. But is it really the water of life? We doubt it, right?
Right.
And today we want to talk about the real water of life. And this whole Follow Jesus weekend is all about water, or the real water.
Yeah.
And thankfully, not only the Irish guys can drink this water, so every people on this planet which claims or which want to have the presence of God can meet him. This is really, really nice.
Beautiful.
So are you ready to dive in?
Let's do it. Let's dive into the river.
So during your session, you spoke about Psalm 1 and this image of a tree planted by the streams of water.
Yeah.
Why is this image so powerful when we talk about following Jesus, when we talk about prayer?
I think it's interesting the way that our bodies are designed. We're designed with innate needs, right? So we have to have water, we have to have sustenance, we have to have sleep. It's almost like God has ingrained dependence into our very nature. And so when he talks about himself as being the water of life, or when he talks about come to the well, or when he talks about being planted by the streams of living water, I think he's trying to say, what I want in my people is for them to be dependent on me, to be in a relationship with me that's not a kind of one moment in time
Yes.
event, but a regular daily rhythm. So, we can't just bounce from conference to conference, kind of taking one swig of water
Yeah.
here and then just waiting all week and then one more swig on Sunday. It doesn't work. Like our bodies don't work that way.
Interesting.
And I think our souls don't either. So I think when Jesus says, come to me,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be satisfied. I think what he's trying to say is we're designed, our souls are designed in such a way to be in relationship with God. If you think about Eden, and Adam and Eve, God walking with them in the cool of the day, it's wired into our being to have friendship with God. But then the fall happens and we get this separation. But through the beautiful kind of reconciliation through Jesus, we can step back in to friendship with God, but we still live in this kind of fallen, complex world where all kinds of things keep us away from him.
Yes.
And so I think this image of water is a powerful way of speaking to kind of thirst and desire and need. And ultimately, Jesus is the answer to all of those thirsts. I think it's Augustine talks about, the desires and of the soul. He talk about my soul is restless until it rests in you.
Yeah.
But Augustine talks about this and he says it's not that we don't love enough, right? We've got all this love and desire in our hearts. It's that we love in the wrong order. So
Yeah.
we try and fill our lives with all these things that we think will satisfy us, but we miss Christ, who's the only one who really will. So we have to get our loves back in the right order
Yeah.
and fuel our souls with the sustenance that actually gives us life. Does that make
Wow.
sense?
Totally. So it's so interesting if you talk about these desires that we all have,
Yeah.
and we search in this world. I mean, non-Christians search it too, and they find it in a good career, in alcohol, in whatever, in a good
Yeah.
relationship even.
Yeah.
But they miss like a really big part of
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I wish to go back to Eden. That would be perfect. If you just have the real relationship with God, intimate and forever ongoing.
Well,
would
we
be
will
nice.
one day. And what's amazing is this image of the water in scripture. It doesn't end with Jesus. John 7, Jesus stands up and says, anyone who's thirsty, come to me and drink. And then he says, and out of them will flow rivers of living water. So
Yeah.
there's this beautiful kind of unfolding where we plant ourselves in God, we drink deep of the river, and then that flows out of us in
Yeah.
mission, right? So we
Yeah.
go out and we take this good news out to the world. But the thing unfolds, and then in Revelation, you see the river of life again. And it's this picture of the kingdom come, of the eternal future that we're waiting for. And it talks about this kind of garden city with this river that brings life to it all. And it says, the Lord is here, the Lord dwells here.
Yeah.
That is where we're going.
Yeah.
We're going to the place where God dwells and we can encounter him with perfect intimacy at that point.
That makes total sense.
So we're
Interesting.
going back and
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah. At the same time.
In all of that, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I thought about in your session about I don't know if it's called manna in the Old Testament.
Yeah,
The
that's
food
right, yeah.
where the Israelites became each day
Yes.
just that amount that they needed for their family, for their household, whatever. And they don't are allowed, or God, I guess he was teaching them to just take that much that they need for one day, right? And I guess with Jesus or with prayer or with following Jesus, it's like the same thing. We have to every day get new energy from him.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's also kind of hard, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, I imagine it would be better if this is a modern thinking, but if Jesus gave us enough for 1 month, it's like, oh, okay, I don't have to get to a sermon on Sunday because I still have enough energy. I still have enough Jesus in me. But Jesus wants us to have a daily encounter with him.
It's your Swiss efficiency right there.
I
Let's
guess so, yeah.
make this system more efficient. But yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think the manna is a really important point to reference because I think that is so much of the human condition is expressed in the story of the Israelites trying to get more than their daily supply, trying to keep some aside.
Hmm.
So much of our human condition is expressed in that. And so much of what God is trying to do in us is expressed in the fact He'll only do it every day. So if you think about it, I think psychologists talk about it in terms of an abundance
Hmm.
mindset or a scarcity mindset. And
What
part of
means scarcity?
so abundance is, I've got everything I need. I
Yeah.
know that my cup is
Hmm.
overflowing. So my kids, for example,
Hmm.
they will just walk in and take whatever they want off my plate.
Yeah.
They don't try and sneak food from the fridge for
Yeah.
later in case they're hungry because they
Yeah.
know if they get hungry again, they just have to ask.
Yeah.
There's abundance, right?
Yeah.
Scarcity is this fear, this desperate sort of, I'm not going to have enough. I'm not going to have what I need. It's sort of like an orphan spirit, a kind
Hmm.
of a deep fear of lack.
Yeah.
And so I think part of the fall is that humans become inflicted with this sort of scarcity mindset, this fear of not having enough.
Mm.
And so the story of the manna is a perfect example of that. God's like, I will give you this
Yeah.
every day. It's going to be on your doorstep. The only thing you have to do is trust me
Yeah.
that I'm going to give it to you tomorrow. But because they have this scarcity, not enough mindset, they can't trust him.
Mm.
And so they try and get more, and then it goes moldy and it rots because God wants to meet them every day. So I think what God is trying to do in that story and throughout kind of all of our lives, I think He's trying to replant us in abundance. He's trying to say, I'm a good father that you can trust. He's trying to teach us dependence on Him. And so it's not that it's not that He doesn't want us to have loads of bread, enough for the whole month. It's that He
Yeah.
wants us to keep trusting that He'll provide it, right?
Yeah.
And so, and if you think of it in the life of Jesus, when you look at the prayer life of Jesus, how much He snuck away to pray and
Yeah.
went up a mountain to pray. And I think it's in Mark, He said, He spells it out for us very early in the morning.
Yeah.
Jesus rose to go and pray. So the disciples don't even feel this need to like to
Yeah.
go and pray, and yet Jesus will sacrifice His sleep because He knows I need this and I
Yeah.
can't just rest on the fact that I prayed, you know, last week. I need to go and have this regular encounter with God, and that fuels everything else. So I think when we look at Jesus, I think that just tells me that we need to do it ourselves. And I think it all comes back probably to that the fact that prayer is so much more than a sort of a divine slot machine. Do you know what I mean by that? Does that translate? Like,
I guess.
like yeah, like just kind of asking or wanting or hoping,
Yeah.
playing the odds and
Yeah.
hoping that God will answer. Prayer is at its heart is about our relationship with God.
Yeah.
Like God genuinely wants to know us and
Yeah.
hear our thoughts. And it's interesting if you look at the Psalms, right? So the prayer book of the Bible, all throughout the Psalms, David spends most of the time just talking about what he's going through and how he's
Yeah.
feeling about it,
Yeah.
even though God knows all of that. And yet that sort of tells me, the book of Psalms tells me that what God's really interested in is being with us,
Mm.
and not just being the answer to what we need,
Mm.
but also being present with us and really knowing us. So it makes me think of, do you know the story in, I think it's in 1 Kings, let's see if I can find it. Yeah, 1 Kings 19. There's the story of Elijah, and he's really, he's in a bad place
Yeah.
and he's in a dark place, and he's like, God, I'm so burned out. And God says, I'm going to show up, I'm going to meet with you. And he sort of hides him in this cleft, and then he says, I'm going to pass by. And then you have this series of, what do we have? We've got the
Storms, winds, and everything else.
wind, earthquake, fire, all these big dramatic things. And every time it says, and God wasn't in the
Mm.
wind or the earthquake or the fire. And then the voice of God comes, and it's this gentle whisper.
Mm.
And I think the thing with a whisper is you have to be really close to hear it, right? That's the point of a whisper, is it invites the other person to lean in and come
Yeah.
close. And so to
That's
me,
nice.
like, there's this thing in prayer that's like, God, he wants me to be close. He doesn't want to impress me from afar with these big dramatic
No.
shows of his power. he wants intimacy and connection. He wants me close. So I think that's why it's every day, because I don't have good relationships with people I don't speak to regularly.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah,
a part
course,
of
yeah.
it's a part of being in relationship with anyone.
Yeah.
So like my husband and I are married, oh goodness, I want to say 11 years this year. I have to think about that. Long
Nice.
enough that it's
Yeah.
stopped keeping count. But it's like when you start dating, you don't need anyone to tell you, go and spend time with that person, right?
Yeah, of
Because it's like
course.
all you
It's
want to do.
obvious,
It's
yeah.
obvious. And you don't need to put a time limit on like, we need to like talk about this thing or that thing. You'll just talk until you fall asleep. It's just this really, really kind of natural and beautiful thing. And then as you go into the years in marriage, you have to be a little bit more intentional, don't you? And you have to sort of set aside like a date night.
Yeah.
And it sounds very unromantic, like, okay, I'm going to schedule you in for
First
this
day.
time. Yeah. And we have to have this conversation. Sounds really unromantic, but the truth is that if you want to sustain intimacy over a long period of time, it requires discipline and it requires something different. And so, I sort of hope that we're like that bit closer to being the wrinkly old couple walking along the beach in our 90s because we put those
Yeah.
disciplines and those rhythms in place. And I think it's the same with prayer. If we want to have like a proper, genuine relationship with God, then it has to be consistent and regular.
Yeah. Wow. That's really inspirational. So the whisper of God, we can only hear if we are close enough, if we spend time in it. And I guess this is a real struggle in our modern, speedy world,
Yes.
because every morning is like, we just open up our Bibles for like 5 minutes, and if the coffee is empty, we're good to go.
Yeah.
Get up for work.
Yeah.
So we have to train that,
Yes.
I guess.
Yeah.
So, except the Lectio Divina 365 app, what do you recommend every Christian to have a place or a time or something daily which can help us to build this close and intimate relationship with God?
I think that's a really good question. And I think you have to pray as you were made to pray. So I think a lot of people struggle with prayer because they try and fit into a mode or a model
Mm-hmm.
that someone else has taught them that's maybe not natural to them. So say,
Mm-hmm.
for example, if you have ADHD, the thought of sitting still
Yeah,
to pray is a nightmare.
it's
And you're
horrible.
going to feel like you're a failure all the
Yeah,
time. And you're not a failure. You're just praying like somebody else who's
yeah,
calm, introverted, different personality type, whatever it is.
yeah,
So I think pray as you can, not as you can't, and pray as you are, not as you aren't.
mm-hmm.
Prayer it is a relationship, and so God receives us as we are. So if you're someone that loves to run, meet God on your run. If you're someone that loves to paint, meet God as you paint. So I think there's got to be a kind of a natural engaging God in those areas of our lives that come naturally to us anyways,
Mm-hmm.
or a habit that we do every day anyway, that we
Yeah,
can make sure that we're going to then incorporate God into that. So
yeah.
a friend of mine, Pete, he said getting a dog saved his prayer life
Really?
because every day he had to walk this dog. And so he decided well, I'm bored on this walk. I've
Yeah.
only got my dog to talk to, and he's terrible company. So I'll talk to God instead.
So nice.
And at first he said at first it was this kind of difficult, unnatural, trying to strike up this conversation with God on these walks. And there would be days where he wouldn't have done it, he says, but then the dog comes over with the lead in his mouth, and it's like he kind of got forced out on this walk because he knew he had to walk the dog.
Mm-hmm.
But actually when he put in that rhythm and he intentionally kept showing up, he said at some point the it was almost like the hinge turned, and
Mm-hmm.
he said it became my favorite part of the day, and it was
Wow.
something I would look forward to all day because it became this, I'm really meeting with God here.
Yeah.
I'm not sort of like trying or ambling or trying and failing. It became just this very natural, I'm like, it's a meeting with God, and I
Yeah.
would not miss it for the world. But it took that kind of discipline of the dog asking for it. So I would say pray in a way that's consistent and appropriate to you and to your
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle. Um, I think psychologists talk about the two most important moments in your day in terms of the formation of your mind and your thinking
Mm-hmm.
being the first moments when you wake up and the last moments before you fall asleep.
which is adversary for your app, right?
There you go. If only there was an app that had morning and night prayers. But those moments are really, really important that bookend the day. And they're really important for the formation of your mind. You know, Romans 12 talks about don't be conformed to the pattern of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Now, the problem a lot of us have in this smartphone age is that when we wake up, the first thing we do often is grab the phone off the nightstand. And so before you've even sat up out of bed, you're kind of bombarded with this mix of, you know, the news, social media, whatever it is, you know, kind of scrolling. It's just this big barrage. But if
Yeah.
those moments are really important to your formation, that's a problem. And same when you go to bed at night, you know, the number of people that will sit on their phone
Yeah.
and then put their phone to sleep next to them. They did a study recently, and apparently a lot of people now sleep with their phone in their hand, which is
Crazy.
hard to imagine, but it is becoming a real problem. So
Yeah.
I think one piece of advice that I would give to anybody that's looking to try and sort of work on their prayer lives would be give God your first and your last moments of the day. And I'm not even talking about a big, long
Yeah.
period of time here. I have young kids who come jumping in on me in the bed. Like it's not a long moment, but when you first open your eyes, when you first wake up, give God those first moments.
Yeah.
Turn your thoughts to Him, to His Word, to prayer, and same at night. I think that bookending really is very, very important. So I think that's good. Obviously, there's loads of great resources out there to help you with that as well. But I love doing that. I was listening to, I'm trying to remember who it was, somebody on a podcast recently who said that has started reading his Bible in the morning and kind of starting a conversation with God that he then carries on throughout the day, but he'll link it to what he's reading. So he'll read and he says this phrase, "Today, God, I hear you talking to me about." So say I've woken up and I've just read this story about Elijah and the gentle whisper. I might start my day by saying, okay, God, today I hear you talking to me about your voice or the way you speak to me. I hear you talking about your presence or the importance of intimacy. And then the whole way throughout my day, I've kind of got this locked in.
Yeah.
So I've started doing that. I find that quite helpful too.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
I started and now we are in the season to Easter, and I started a little, or I try to use less cell phone time each day. And it's funny because every time I want to take my phone, I remember, oh no, I don't have to, or I shouldn't. And then I was like, now I have time. I have time to do something. And sometimes it's a prayer, sometimes it's something else up in my mind, but it doesn't matter. So it's just like we have to. It has to be a habit, but to get there, you have to do it again and again and again. And I guess sometimes it's frustrating because you need like 2 to 3 weeks. Some psychologists says this. That the habit is like usual and it's in your day and it's good. But I guess we have to try it.
You might have to break a few habits in order to form the habit you really want.
Yeah,
right?
like a new one.
Yeah, I think it's that book, Atomic Habits. He says every action you take is a vote for the kind of person you want to become. But we don't think about every action that intentionally. But I think it's important to actually think through your day and think about the actions you take and what kind of vote they cast to the person you're becoming. So yeah, absolutely. Breaking habits and making habits, it's all really important.
Yeah. Wow. Very
But
cool.
phones are. I think I talked about it in the session this morning about distraction and that Richard Foster quote where he says, you know, the enemy, if he can keep you engaged in muchness and manyness, I don't know if that translates very well to Swiss, muchness and manyness, but you kind of get the gist. And I think that's what phones are. It's muchness and manyness, you know, and it just fills up all these little portals in our day where it could have been a window for prayer, for even just breath prayers. You know, I don't know if you've tried that where you kind of breathe in with one line of the prayer and you breathe out with the other. They're a great way to kind of recenter yourself throughout the day. But instead of doing that, we often just distract ourselves.
Yeah.
And it numbs our souls. Actually, it numbs the hunger that's there and just it's not good for us.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I have to stay on the habit or stay on my all my tries to get there.
I think so. I think we all, everyone in this digital age, we all
Yeah.
will have a problem with technology of some nature.
Yeah,
And so it's being aware of it, I think, is important.
it's a start.
It's a very good start.
Yeah.
You're doing amazing.
So you're also part of the 24/7 prayer movement,
Mhm.
and my question would also be, when you pray each day, for example, a morning prayer, night prayer, or on several other occasions, um, where do you take the time from? Also,
Yeah.
is it like less Bible time? You're leading a church, you're a mother of two, doing podcasts, work for another missionary team.
Yeah. Yeah.
How
Excellent
are you all
question.
fit
How
all
does
this
it
in one
all
day?
fit? Well, to answer that, I'm gonna revert to a friend of mine. So, have you heard of a guy called Brennan Manning? He's an author of a bunch of books and beautiful, beautiful soul. And my friend Pete Gregg, when the 24/7 prayer movement was really beginning and starting to go viral. I mean, we didn't have the word viral back then, but it was starting to go all around the world. And Pete ended up meeting with Brennan Manning, who was one of his heroes.
Hmm.
They met for a pizza in New York City, apparently Hawaiian pizza, to be specific, if you wanted to know. And they're sitting there with their Hawaiian pizza, and Brennan turns to Pete and he says, "Okay, Pete, 24/7, 365. That's a lot of praying. When do you feel like you've prayed enough?"
Yeah.
Pete was sort of like, "Oh, like what do you mean?" And Brennan's like, "Well, there's always another news story, another thing, another
Yeah.
like when do you feel like you've prayed enough?" And Pete didn't really know how to respond. Brennan said, "Can I tell you what I do?" And Brennan Manning was a priest, and he said, "What I do is I also go to a prayer room. I have a place of prayer that I go to, and I go there first thing, and I spend an hour in prayer in the prayer room." But he said, the reality is that that hour that I spend in the prayer room is actually the only hour in the day when I'm not really praying. That hour, I'm recentering myself, rooting myself, planting myself in the Word of God, reorientating my heart to His presence. So then I go out, and the other 23 hours become a prayer.
Wow.
And that really, really helped frame things for Pete and for me. Of okay, so it's actually, the New Testament talks about pray without ceasing.
Hmm.
um I think that's Colossians, maybe Ephesians as well. Yeah, both of them. Ephesians says, sorry, Colossians and Ephesians both talk about pray without ceasing. And that can feel like this massive pressure. Like, how
Yeah.
can I pray without ceasing? How am I praying right now when we're talking?
Yeah.
How do we actually do this? And I think Brennan Manning's point really, really helped me. Of it's important that we go and we take that time very intentionally in the
Hmm.
presence of God. One author I like, he talks about breaking the crust of self. Does that translate? That's
That's
very
hard.
complicated in English, but the idea is that we're all so kind of
Yeah.
self-orientated that even while we sleep, it's almost like the crust goes up around us
Yeah.
again. And so every morning we have to like break that
Mm.
afresh. And so every morning it's that kind of intentional, okay, reorientation to the
Mm.
kingdom of heaven, to the presence of God, to the word of God, to the reality of the spirit of God at work in my life.
Mhm.
And we take that time, and then the whole rest becomes a prayer. So as we're talking, it's a prayer. As I'm, you know, putting my kids' shoes on, it's worship. As I'm, helping someone on the street, it's prayer. It's this kind of constant rhythm.
Yeah. And maybe also an aware of God's grace, of God's intimacy in my life, of His
Exactly.
presence.
Exactly. And it's kind of
Yes.
like, because you've taken that time to really focus on him at the beginning, then it becomes a lot easier to come back to him throughout the day.
Yeah.
The way that we naturally would, say, with a spouse, if you're not with them.
Yeah.
Like at the moment, I'm in Switzerland, my family are at home. I'm not just going to sort of leave and then 2 days later come back and say, "How are you guys?"
Yeah.
There's a constant kind of,
Yeah.
how did this morning go? I
Yeah.
know they're on the beach right now. There's
Yeah.
this kind of natural, continuous conversation. And I think that becomes our relationship with prayer, where it's this very natural, continuous conversation. And it has all these different colors. If you
Mhm.
picture a color palette, there's moments where I'll be in fervent intercessory prayer. There's moments where I'll be just giving thanks, giving thanks to God for all that He's done. And then there's moments where I'm just chatting with God, and
Yeah.
so there's these different modes, but it kind of all becomes a life of prayer.
Yeah.
Does that
All
make
together.
sense?
Yeah, totally. And I guess it's a new way of looking at prayer, at our times where we can meet with God every day.
Yeah.
And I guess we have to reorientate that. It's normally you would say, okay, well, I have 6 appointments on this day, and some in between somewhere it has to be a prayer, or it has to
Yeah.
be reading the scripture or whatever. And it's like we have to renew our minds to just say this time isn't not just an add-on on our daily calendar. So it's like an exit or a oasis.
Mm-hmm.
Something which isn't in the amount of time measured, just to have like
Yes.
it's a moment where we can meet with God without all the stress, without all this I have to do this, I have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I used to read the Bible in a year.
Mhm.
We had to in our study, but after years it doesn't felt like I'm meeting with God, because it was like, okay, I have to read 30 minutes. I know this. Now I have to start. Then I have to finish.
Yeah.
So it's, I guess,
Yeah.
I guess many people else should learn to just be with God, not to do something.
Right.
And I guess that helped also with your Lectio prayer. It's like, how do you call it? Not meditational, but contemplative
Yes.
prayer.
Yep.
So that you are being present in, or that you are in the presence of God, and He can speak to you. We can speak to Him with all that what it's on your mind, and this is great.
Mm.
We have to have more than one once in a day, because or even once in a week, whatever. But I guess we can improve that on our daily basis.
Yeah, I think it's Brother Lawrence talks about that the idea of practicing the presence, and
Hmm.
he just famously washed dishes and talked about the presence of God in that space as much as when he would go to chapel and pray with the other monks.
Yeah.
And I think that was really revolutionary when he sort of introduced that idea of, there are these sacred moments is a weird way to describe it, but these moments where we set ourselves apart,
Hmm.
where we are really intentionally looking for God,
Hmm.
and it's just about Him in that moment. But then there's the rest of our life where we are looking at other people and serving God and bringing His kingdom, but it's learning to practice His presence as we go throughout our days.
Hmm.
C.S. Lewis calls it God's incognito presence. Like He's always
No.
here,
Yeah.
but I'm not always aware of it. And so
Yeah.
it's just always trying to increase my awareness of Him.
Wow. Yeah, this is great. And I guess this is also a new thing, or an additional thing we have to learn, or to be more aware of this, that Christ is here, living in us, through us, each day,
Yeah.
at every moment we live. And it's not the holiest moment when we read the scripture. It is also good when we talking with our neighbor. Can also be a part of our daily prayer basis.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Cool. So to break down a little bit for our listeners, if someone wants to grow in prayer, every day life prayer, what would be one first little step to make?
Good question. Give yourself grace. Pray as you can, not as you can't. Think of some small measurable change that you can make.
Yeah.
Perhaps one habit that you could introduce for 1 week and
Hmm.
try that. So we've been in a series in our church recently where we've had a different prayer practice each week at the end of Sunday, and we kind of challenge our church to go out and try it for a week.
Hmm.
And people have said that's really helpful because it's quite overwhelming and intimidating to say, I'm going to every day now for the rest of my life give God my first moments.
Yeah.
Now, I think that'd be a great thing to do,
Yeah, of
but I
course.
get that feels humongously intimidating. So start with something that you could do for a week. So the first prayer practice we did was breath prayers. So what I
Hmm.
mentioned before of a simple prayer. So say Abba as you breathe in, I belong to you.
Hmm.
Make up a breath prayer each day for 7 days. Now that takes you maybe 1 minute to come up with something and then 1 minute to do it each day for 7 days.
Yeah.
It's really manageable. So
Yeah.
come up with something bite-sized and then add on to that and build into that different things. So I think the next week we had a prayer practice that was set an alarm on your phone at midday and take a moment to stop whatever you're doing. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, if you're in work and you can't stop, don't get fired. But if it's possible,
Yeah, of
listen to
course.
that alarm, stop what you're doing, and we had like a moment of gratitude. So we as a church would pray Psalm 100, which is a psalm all about giving thanks to God and pick things that we're grateful for and just say thank you. So different little habits like that, I would say, start slowly and start
Mhm.
small and pray in a way that feels manageable to you, but try and show up every day.
Mhm.
You know, don't show off,
Yeah.
just show up.
Yeah.
So do it in a way that's manageable.
Yeah. Wow.
We had it's Brennan Manning actually. He tells this story of a guy who he really wanted to grow in prayer and he was desperate to have a relationship with God. But every time he tried, he just found it so difficult. And I know that lots of people listening to this will feel that way. Like
Yeah.
prayer has felt so hard. It's Saint Teresa of Avila, who's one of the famous saints of prayer. She was known for shaking the hourglass, like to make the sand go through faster, to make her hour of prayer finish, like at the beginning of her prayer journey. So if you feel
Wow.
that way, it's completely understandable and
Yeah.
it's really, really challenging. But Brandon tells this story of a guy who was desperate to learn to pray. He went to his pastor and said, I want to learn to pray. And the pastor gave him this stack of really complicated theological books all about prayer and said, this will help you. And he said, Brandon, I got 3 pages in and I had already had to look up 20 words and I just gave up.
Yeah, of
So he said,
course.
I can't.
Naturally.
So basically this was his story, this guy's story. Um, and then he met this friend, and the friend said, Brennan, prayer is really not that complicated. You're over no, sorry, well, not Brennan, the guy who's telling the story.
Yeah.
I'm losing all my characters. Anyways, this guy, his friend says to him, prayer is really not that complex.
Yeah.
Do you want to know what I do? And the friend said, yes, absolutely. He said, I pull up an empty chair, like an actual chair. I just
Mhm.
pull it up and I sit in front of it and I just talk to God. I just imagine him there,
Yeah.
like a friend, and I just talk to him and I do it every day and I love it. And the guy said, is that really prayer? He said, well, I think so. Like I do it. So he started this prayer habit and basically the story goes that Brannon, he gets this phone call from this guy's daughter who says, can you go and visit him in
Mhm.
hospital? He's really unwell. And Brannon goes into the hospital and the guy has the empty chair next to him.
Wow.
And he tells this whole story of how he talks to God and he's just enjoyed this life of prayer. And he said, Brannon, is that real prayer? And Brannon says, yes, absolutely, that's real prayer. And then the man passes away and the daughter phones Brannon to let him know. And she said, I had stepped out of the room at the moment when he passed. And Brandon said, did he go peacefully? And she said, he did, but it was strange. Right as he kind of breathed his last, he just leaned up out of bed and rested his head on this empty chair next to his bed, which is
Mm.
just this beautiful kind of this lifelong conversation with God and then
Yeah.
this natural step into eternity with him. It's just his
Yeah.
best friend,
Wow.
just
Yes.
leans over. And so I think to the person who wants to get started, I think don't overcomplicate it. You could
Mhm.
even try that. Pull
Yeah.
up an empty chair and just talk to God.
Yeah. I guess we have that, everybody at home, just one empty chair,
We all have
and
that.
we all set.
Yeah, or Brian, who's here with us this weekend. Brian has a chair, not an empty chair, it's a chair that he sits in
Yeah.
when he prays, and that's
Yeah.
the only time he sits in it. So
Oh,
that can be
wow.
a good practice
Yeah.
too.
Then you have to have room for one chair you don't use just for
I know.
prayer. But
So
it's a
you
good
gotta
idea.
you've got to work with what you got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just managed to get out of bed before I pray because I know I would fell asleep again. So,
Yes.
but that's also a start.
That's also okay, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's so fine to fall asleep in prayer. If you picture like, I know with my kids, if I'm having a conversation with my kids and it's late at night and they're tired and one of them falls asleep while we're chatting, I
Mm.
don't think, oh, I dare you. I think this is beautiful.
Yeah.
You're so at peace and
Yeah.
I tuck them up into bed. So
Yeah.
I think don't beat yourself up either if you do fall asleep.
Yeah.
I think that's okay.
Yeah. Cool. So very nice. Thank you much for for all of you've said in the session, but also now. And to finish, we have also a Swiss beverage. It's not our national drink, but it's kind of good, I guess.
Wow.
We don't know what it actually smells like. It's really special, but I guess you have to try it.
I do have to try it.
If you are in Switzerland, then it's important to drink that. It's called Rivella in Swiss German. And
Rivella.
Rivella, yeah, it's a good one.
Thank you.
So I would say thank you so much for being here.
Well, cheers. In Irish, you say sláinte.
Sláinte.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for having me. It's delicious.
Yeah, but you can't say what the smell is like. It's
I
sweet.
can't say what the taste is either.
Yeah.
It's
And
nice.
the funny thing is, it's out of milk powder or something out of a milk something.
No.
Yeah,
Okay, well, that's weird.
maybe a little.
Ooh. Tasty though.
Yeah, but Swissness can be also weird. We're not just good in chocolate and cheese. Maybe we are just weird sometimes.
I
Like
like it.
Rivella.
It's a good weirdness. And we
Okay.
really like the chocolate and cheese.
So next time, maybe I have to bring you a chocolate.
I would like that.
Yeah.
I would like that. I'll take this whiskey home too.
Yeah, you have a lot of those at your place, I guess.
Yeah, we certainly do.
Cool. Thanks.